Hey guys, I'm Matt Lighty, and this is a nice, fun little short video that you guys can participate in, and it's really just a crowdsourced effort of just categorizing and just going over some quality of life ideas. Now, these quality of life ideas we took from the entire Lighty community, whatever you want to call it, like Discord, Twitch, YouTube, all that jazz. We'll probably do one more of these in the future, and we can always add to it as such. But long story short, it is just a list of things that we kind of all polled that were quality of life, and we have them labeled in a certain fashion. So let's just go over them one at a time. But first things first, how do we define quality of life? So that the whole point of this video is just what is a quality of life idea for Path of Exile. But to put that into context, there's a couple rules we kind of had to apply. So the basic definition of quality of life when it comes to video games is features or aspects of game design that ensure the player has a smooth gameplay experience and does not get burnt out quickly. That's the gist of quality of life. So it doesn't have to be game altering, and it doesn't have to be just a feature that you don't necessarily like because it's like difficult, or if it just has to somehow, the addition should be basically, in most cases, minimal, but smooths out the gameplay experience and prevents burnout. So we have an example of these lists, and the ones that we marked yellow are basically ones that I marked as the criteria of, could this change be done by an intern over a long weekend? As in, do I think this change is easy to implement, as in it probably already exists in Path of Exile in another part of the game, or it exists in other games of similar genres, or it's like a very minor thing, but it makes a pretty decent impact. And the funny thing about quality of life is, you may think that some of these changes are very minimal, and that they are, but when added together can really save you a ridiculous amount of time. And an example I can give you of just how ridiculous is something, think of something like this, right? You have Metamorph League came out, and in Metamorph League, initially we had to pick up the organs. And that might be like 10 organs per map, and that might sound not like crazy, but 10 organs per map, and you could do 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 maps a league. You're looking at sometimes 50,000 clicks. That's a lot of hand strain, wrist strain. You know, just it adds up. You'd be surprised. So let's go through the list of things, and you can hear them. Add your opinions in the comments below. I'm sure there'll be tons, and just let me know what you think, etc. And again, these are just a crowdsourced thing. These are not all my things. A lot of people have very similar ideas for these things because a lot of them are quite obvious or taken from other games. So let's go through the list. Uber Elder Fragment rerolls. Currently in Harvest, you have the option of rerolling the fragments for Shaper and Elder. It'd be cool to have that option. Could that be added to the game over a weekend? I don't know, because it involves reworking Harvest in some way, which is a much larger project. But you could say this could be done over the weekend, but because it is implemented into the game already, I don't think it'd be that difficult. That is the wrong shade of yellow, to add that into the game over a weekend, basically. Like, this is just a toggleable option, I'd imagine. I'm no game developer, I don't know the coding, and a lot of these things could not be able to be done because of the vast amount of spaghetti code that Path of Exile run off of, but it seems quite minimal in scope. Horizon Orbing Elder and Blighted maps. Currently, you could Horizon Orb Shaper maps. Examples exist for, you could turn a Chimera into a Minotaur. Why can't we do the same for Elder maps or Blighted maps? A little strange to me, so that'd be an interesting little thing. Mercy unique drops for long-form content. This is a much bigger issue, hence it's not highlighted. Examples include Simulacrum. So you could run an entire Simulacrum and technically not be guaranteed unique. Used to be that you got a unique guaranteed off of a boss at round 20 previously. That was removed now, but just things like just guaranteed breakpoints in content, like after your 50th Cirrus run, if you haven't gotten a drop like a Savior, you have a guaranteed one. So it's just like a mercy system, right? Interesting concept. Modular affinity tabs. Currently we have tabs in the game that all have specialized uses, but none of them really have a modular value, as in, can I assign an affinity to just put away incubators, or just put away specific kinds of currency. So just like a more modular tab affinity. I'm not sure what the framework is for that again, but it'd be interesting to see. In-game wiki / index or working game guide. Currently the game guide in Path of Exile is literally abysmal. It's missing content that's been in the game for almost 4 years now. It's terrible. It's terrible. And the wiki has transitioned owners, still not in really control of by Path of Exile third-party websites, and there's really no in-game interaction. So the RuneLite client in RuneScape has a good example of this, where you could just click a button, click on anything, and it just opens up the wiki. So some sort of in-game interaction should be pretty easy. I mean, for the game guide, you could just open up a fucking text file and have an intern just add in, like, what is Ward from, you know, Expedition. That should not have to not be in the game. That should be a very easy thing to implement. UI customization, this can be a lot of things, but we'll just go for the basic option that people want the most is zoom, zooming out your character. The argument to say that it'd be unfair to zoom out your character because it's an unfair advantage, or maybe the game designs want to be zoomed to a certain dimension. Well, if you just played on ultra wide, your character is you see more than someone who doesn't. That's like almost a pay to win thing. Because my monitor is normal sized, I can't see as much as someone who has an ultra wide monitor. It just seems like, why not just give us the option to zoom out a little bit more if possible, that sort of thing. Yeah. Targeted unique farming, again, it's a quality of life thing, kind of similar to a mercy system, but just more that, like, things used to drop off bosses that no longer do. If I want a brass dome, aside from buying one, I have no way of getting a brass dome. Previously, I would just kill Minotaur, and eventually it'll drop because it's on its drop table. But things have less drop tables now than they used to in Path of Exile, so targeted farming for uniques is not as prevalent, basically. Streamline mapping. This is a loose thing that the example we came up with was make bosses open portals on kill. So in a Val side zone, if you experience a Val side zone, when you finish the Val side zone, when you kill the boss and click the Val side receptacle, a portal opens. Why don't they just have it so when you kill a boss, a portal opens? That would be nice. That would streamline, that would smooth the gameplay experience, and it could, it could over the course of, your entire path experience save you hundreds of hours. Who knows? That's just part of the quality of life thing. Stash tab for all large quantity of varied resources. It's just crazy that we just have a lot of things that don't have stash tabs currently. Watchstones are actually being removed from the game as of 3.17, but things like incubators or cluster jewels, we just got gems and flasks will be added, so it's a step in the right direction. But yeah, just more stash tabs. It's such an important part, so it just would feel nice. Combat log / death recap. We know that because of how their game is made, they don't have the capabilities of doing a rolling combat log like a game like World of Warcraft has. But Last Epic has a screen that basically says what killed you, what ability they used, and what damage type, and if it was a crit or not. There's a couple options you can do here. You can also have it so it does a screenshot on death, so you can see your surroundings. Basically, the current best method is to just record yourself playing, and if you died, look at the recording, but that just kind of feels shit. So even something as minimal, again, as who killed you, so it would be like Cirrus killed you with the die beam, and the damage type was physical / fire. It's an amount of information that would be helpful, so anything is, again, step in the right direction. Consistent account-based progression. This is a very large project, but it would be a pretty nice streamlining quality of life. It used to be the case that individual players had to do individual lab trials. Now it was league-based, so if I ran lab trials on one character, they're all characters. That sort of thing, but maybe persistent through even past leagues. So when you start, you get have all your betrayal crafts unlocked, you already have all your pantheons unlocked, just things like that prevent you from playing path. For a lot of people's perspectives, although prophecy is being removed from the game, a lot of people think that, like, unlocking all your crafts, doing all your lab trials, setting up all your heists and leveling your rogues, these are all things that for most players that I've spoken with and I've polled with isn't really fun. Like, I don't really know anyone who's been like, I love leveling up my rogues. You could love running heists, you can love doing grand heists, but the actual part of just leveling them up, like, that's a level of tedium that if we could somehow remove or streamline, that would be a much more smooth gameplay experience and prevent people from getting burnt out. What is, like, the number one thing people get burnt out was, from my perspective, is leveling, re-rolling. This is a very big one to tackle. You cannot do this in a weekend to figure this out, but there are a lot of different options. How do we make an alternate leveling experience or a streamlined level experience after your first character? Hard to say. Again, there's so many options. One that we thought of that I liked, which was after your first level 90 in League, you could make like a pre-leveled 70. So we know that you have the option to make prefab characters because we had low-level dueling. Those characters were level 28, so they have the capabilities of coming with like pre-done shitty rare gear, and like you could just kind of hop in. So imagine you get your first 90 in League, then you want to reroll your second character. You just click a button, and you have a character sitting in the Act 10 epilogue, basically, with like level 68, with maybe like 50 all-res and like basic rare gear on. And then you'd have to get that character to 90 to get your next free 70, right? That kind of cool system would be interesting because at least it rewards you. It prevents people from just starting the League with a level 90, but those who do push to that point, if they want to reroll, they have a good jumping off point. It's just there's there's 1,000 options to do this type of thing. Endless heist, endless delve. Those were cool options also for alternate leveling experiences. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Pre-allocating passive tree nodes. This is beyond obvious. Currently, you have to plot each individual point and path. I could show you a really basic example of this. In Path of Exile, I currently have to do this and then this. But what we really all want is just to be able to do this, and then just boom, there I'm there, and then just put a push select basically and let us do it. So that's what I mean by pre-allocating passive nodes. Like, let us plot on the tree before locking it in. That'd be great. Auto gem leveling. Console has this currently, actively. If you're playing Path on console, this is how it works. Gems level up until you tell them to stop. It just would save you clicking. Again, most of this stuff is not advanced difficulty. It's not making you a better player. It just saves you clicking, prevents wrist strain. No carpal tunnel. You got it. Map plus stash access. It would just be nice to, when you go on the map device, to be able to open your stash like Harvest, so you can access your sacrifice fragments, your scarabs, any sort of map-altering currency, sextants, whatever, what have you, just because it's just convenient. It's streamlining and smoothing out the gameplay experience. Colorblind mode. How this is not in the game is beyond me. I am not colorblind. I am not of the cripple eye foundation. My eyes work perfectly fine. But if they don't, I imagine that sucks, because you can't see shit. Another example of this, which is interesting, is you can't see what requires what. So profane chemistry requires a green, a black, and a silver oil to anoint it. I don't know if you could see green if you're colorblind. What if you can't? Is it just gray, and gray? Like, you know what I'm saying? It just feels shitty. There should be something in place for colorblind people, because they're people too, I think. They could be skinwalkers or night shifters, who knows? Cryptids all around. Particle slider. A slider that has a particle measurement, so you just could do less particles equals less screen clutter. What would be a flame blast turns into a basic geometric circle. Not all of us have yoke computers. Someone out there, maybe living in Croatia, in the land of Zagreb, has their shitty little GeForce computer and wants to play Flame Blast, but can't because it's yoking his CPU. Well, give him a particle slider, he can play the game too. Advanced tooltip options, again, just a more in-depth one, like things like, what the fuck are timeless jewels? How do they work? Or what does nearby mean? Currently, the definitions are very loose for certain things, and trying to figure them out from scratch is like an exercise in futility, so more advanced item options would be great. A warning or disclaimer before valuing or vendoring an item of value. Now, the good question is, as I'm saying, if someone's watching the video going, Lighty, how do you denote what has value, right? A good thing is there's an option to add a flag to an item to give them value. So if we, like, for example, had our 6-link shavs and we tried to vendor it, it'll tell us to stop because there's gems in it. But if it didn't have gems in it and I somehow clicked it by accident because it just dropped like that in a mini-map, it would just be gone. I would have a divine inventory. But if we could, like, hold Alt, Control, and left-click it and put a little flag on it saying, this is a valuable item, it would give you a warning before vendoring it saying, this has value. Are you sure you want to vendor it? Just a little nice little thing. This is like a two-part one. The removal of wisdom and portal scrolls is interesting. This is a kind of a super archaic system from about 2013 for Path of Exile that I feel like doesn't really translate very well to the current game, but the solution also is kind of complicated. Do we just have all rares drop identified? Do we have a Deckard Cain-esque ID all button? For portals, do we just remove portal scrolls and push P for portal? Most games have that. The equivalency of removing portal scrolls being the trade-off of running a portal gem, there is no equivalent value for wisdom scrolls. Do we need a wisdom gem? That's a bigger problem, I think, that just is, again, the tedium of picking up wisdom scrolls, portal scrolls, and using them. How much time does this take up? You might not think very much, but again, crank the scale, and are you really gaining enjoyable value at wisdoming and portaling? Is this like, you know, integral to your game experience? Or would the removal of this and the streamline of this make a more smooth game experience and prevent you from being burnt out and let you just play the game more? Good question. Tradable harvest crafts, just preventing the need for third-party clients like Discord. They existed in Harvest League. I don't really understand why they don't exist now. We're going to be getting something similar in 3.17, but again, just having the option for Trade League players to trade harvest crafts seems like a no-brainer. Currency vacuuming. This exists in, I think, the China client, and we know they have the technology for it because, again, Azerite exists. We know there's a vacuum system in the game. So this just means when I click one piece of currency, all currency that is on the screen also gets sucked up It just saves clicks. It's not making you better. It's not a challenge you have to meet to pick up items. It's just saving you clicks and saving you some time. In-game character name change. There is no system in-game to change your character's name. If I want to change my character's name, my only option is to email support, technical support, and say, I'd like my name changed, please. This seems, again, like a no-brainer to just add a system, whether it's on the website or in-game, that just can change your character name. You type in a character name, it checks if it's available, you change it, you could have a 1 week, a 1 month cooldown. Not rocket science. Increase the ladder size for build tracking. Currently, PoE really only shows like the top 15,000 players or something, which by the end of a league, or by the middle of a league even, is like only characters level 95 plus. It makes it really hard for some players who want to see the early game progression or newer progression of players, and just as a bigger sample size, so it'd be a cool thing to have. Training dummy for testing hideout numbers. WoW has this, other games have this. Some metric for identifying what kind of damage you're doing, how a build feels. Just a training dummy. Dots pausing and remaining on bosses while constant phase changing or invuln. So like bosses like Cirrus go temporary and vulnerable basically like every 5 to 6 seconds when they either split or phase change or what have you, or meteor drop. You have to reapply dots every single time. It'd be cool if dots would pause and continue when the invuln phases change. So it's just a little bit less shitty for, like a little bit less punishing for builds. Because those builds already have pretty terrible single target, and it's just, again, just a minor quality of life for them. It's making them be a little bit less angry. Have citadels not eat your watchstones. This is no longer an issue because watchstones are gone. So it would be nice, but that's gone now, so that's fine. A tracking command log. We know that commands are stored client side, so if you were to do things like /passive or whatever chat log, if it could somehow output that and save it somewhere, it'd be nice to have access to that file just to see all that sort of command log systems you've typed. Have Sin present in the epilogue for handing in pantheons. Currently, the only place you'd ever be aside from your hideout in the acts is the epilogue, and it's the one place that Sin is not present for handing in pantheons. So either having him there or an alternate system for handing in pantheons just seems like the most obvious thing. Optional removal of the first player XYZ type announcements. Currently, if you start a league, you'll see it if you're playing. There's no way in hell to turn it off, unfortunately, but it's like first player to enter the mudflats, first player to enter this hideout. That sort of shit is like just annoying. You can't toggle it off. I don't know why. It's just very annoying to see. Having the additional option to toggle that off would be nice. If you want an alternative route, maybe even have it just for the first boss kills, like first player to kill Cirrus, first player to reach 1,000 delve death, that sort of stuff, but just to generally be flooded your screen with first messages of pointless things is why. Gem, currency, vendor, and hideouts. The only reason they're ever going to acts again is for things like talking to Sin and, you know, going to the vendor. Again, if we just have it in a hideout, it would just save us some time. It's not difficult to go to the acts, but it is just a slight annoyance, which would be nice. Update custom unique tabs for multiple housing. So currently a unique tab only houses one of each item. It'd be nice if it maybe have a drop-down menu and could house multiple of each item. For example, a lot of builds might use 2 void batteries. You can only put one unique tab. So yeah, if you imagine you can put 1 or 2 or multiple jewels or just things like that. So multiple housing for uniques in the tabs. Spawning in player hideouts. I'm not sure how this is in the game that when you log into the game, you start in your hideout, but currently you don't. You just end up in like the acts, which is, again, just a chore to click back to your hideout. So there's that. Editing the loot filter in-game. This is, you know, at the very least, you should be able to access the text file, the .filter file, and just make amendments in-game if wanted. You know, I mean, I'd love a system like Last Epic has, a fully fledged in-game loot filter system. Having to use another third-party website like Filter Blade or making your own filters is really a ball ache, and the inability to do it in-game is also kind of crazy. So, reset the cooldown of focus when entering a new zone. Currently, this doesn't reset the cooldown of focus. It would just be nice if it did, because there's no reason it shouldn't. MTX previewing your character. There is a preview option available when you go under YouTube channel for MTXs, but to see what it would look like on your character or on every class would be a nice touch. Again, even the option of seeing what would look like in combinations. Like, what if I put on this hat and this boot, and this glove, and this aura effect, what would that look like? I can imagine that would really kick up the sales also, so it's probably some incentive there. Let some of the free tabs you start an account be premium. So when you start Path of Exile is advertised as a free RPG, but if you have any intention of trading, the game is not free, because you cannot use a non-premium tab to sell through the Path of Exile's trading system, and none of your tabs are premium. So if you start the game with even just one premium tab, that would give you the ability of using your trade system and selling. But yeah, and if you're afraid of like, oh, but then bots will have access to premium tabs, bots that are trading en masse are making thousands a month, and buying a $5, $10 tab is of no consequence to them. So that argument is ridiculous. So yeah, it's just, again, you also shouldn't base things off of your game and punish new players based off of the inability to manage a bot's problem. So yeah, just giving a new player one premium tab of the 4 tabs would be solving that. Refund all passive button. So as of right now, there is a button on a new league that says refund all passives every time there's a new league. It'd be cool to have that button there all the time and just have a certain amount of regrets required. So it might say like 113, and needs 113 passive refunds, and you push the button and it like zoops up all your passives. Makes resetting characters much, much easier. Again, streamlining your smooth gameplay experience, quality of life, yada yada. Deleting remove only tabs. We currently can just hide them. We can't delete them. If you're wondering what the difference is, it's the equivalent of when your mother asks you to clean your room and you put all your shit in the closet. It's not the same as cleaning your room. You're just hiding the problem. Those remove only tabs will always be there, hidden, and they're not going anywhere. To be able to actually delete them would be fantastic. We can only hide things at the moment. Making currency stack, or increasing the currency stack cap. It's very strange what currency stacks to what. You'll have things like certain currency only stacks to 10, others to 20, 40, 5,000. Why is it not a uniform number? There's no real correlation between what stacks to what and its actual intrinsic value, so it's very confusing. Some sort of consistency there would be nice, and the higher the better, because it's less room to fuck with things, and you have more room to, play the game. Hoarder crafting stations and heist locker across all hideouts. So currently, if you were to change hideouts between the time of selecting new hideouts, you have to remove and replace your hoarder crafting station and heist locker, because there's only one of each, right? If you had multiple access to them, then you could test out new hideouts and make new hideouts and all that stuff and use the same ones. But currently, you have to replace them every single time. It's a strange inconsistency. Transfer inventory button that follows affinity rules. So a lot of games have this. It's a button you push, it takes everything in inventory, and it puts it in your tab where it has applicable spots for affinities. If it doesn't have an applicable spot for affinity, it stays in your inventory. Great another example of this for Trade League players is, imagine a button you push, and it does the exact same thing with the trade window. It dumps your inventory into the trade window. Instead of having to click 60 rows of chaos, you just push a button, and it puts it in the trade window. One button, puts it all in, easy peasy. Auto sort inventory that organizes your inventory to save space. This is just like playing Tetris inventory. Again, Last Epic, Grim Dawn, Titan Quest all had this. You push a button and it rearranges your inventory to have the most optimal amount of space possible. It's a grid-based system, so we know it has the technology to do that. That's how grid systems work in video game for inventory. It'd be cool to see. Spectre Bank. I didn't expect this to be added to the game anytime soon, but they just added it to the game. In 3.17, in the new league, there will be a Spectre Bank to a degree. I don't know the exact details. The one I would like is a way to store specters in mass. Like I could have a menagerie-esque place where I could dump like 5, 10, 20 specters and come use them at my leisure. Hopefully it'll be like that, but we will wait and see. So that's cool to see that. Auto-opening doors. Doors currently do not auto-open, except for like certain places. Incursion has this when you're walking through and setting up your temple, but when you're in the temple it doesn't. Why don't all doors just auto open when you walk into them? Strange. Scour chance button on crafting bench. Instead of having to click scour, click the item. Chance, click the item. What if we just put the item in a crafting bench and hit a button that just scour chanced it? It would save you a lot of clicks, and that is good for your wrist health. Make 6 links items glow or something. This was from a funny one from chat, but I didn't. This is not a Lighty problem, because this is to prevent trade window scams. Realistically, you should always double check what you click when trading, but I don't see any problem really with having it so 6 links just like glow a certain color. Meaning, if somebody tries to trade you a 6 link shav, cancels the trade, and then puts in a 5 link shavs, you don't get baited by a scam. but yes. Remapping player movement plus instant spell to not use mouse 1. Currently, if you try to remap player movement and an instant spell not on mouse 1, there's issues, so that'd be nice to have that working. Auto fuse, jeweler, or multiple use system. A similar thing to the crafting bench, just have a sliding scale where it's like use 20 jewelers, and then it uses 20, it just like, you know, goes through 20 jewelers, and then if it hits it, it stops, and if it doesn't, you just have to redo it. Again, it's just saving wrist pain. These are all things that don't really make you a better player for doing them. It's not like it's a difficult thing to accomplish. You shouldn't feel proud of clicking 1,000 times. These are just smoothing out gameplay. It'll just let you actually play the game. It's removing resistance, removing speed bumps from you playing Path of Exile. Visual in-game display of ability AoE. Currently in POB, you can actually do this where you can see how large is my Cyclone, how large, where does my Timeless Jewel allocate to. Like, these are certain things. How big is my Spectre's AoE? How big is my RF going to be? It'd be cool to have an in-game visual display of this. Adding Control-Shift-Click to make things max quality. Quite simply, instead of having to click 20 times to GCP a gem from 0 quality to 20 quality, what if we just hit Control, Shift, and left-clicked? This would be really nice because it saves you 19 clicks, and that's good. A /hideout button. Just if hideouts are going to be a thing that you don't load into automatically, just a button on screen where you push it and you go to your hideout. Could be a thing, it's quite minimal, might be nice. Permanently disable the tutorial or pop-up system. As of right now, every single character you make, you have to re-click disable tutorials. It'd be nice to have a setting or just a button next to it that says permanently disable on my account, or even permanently disable for the rest of the league. That'd be nice. A boss dialogue slider. So right now there is only NPC dialogue. This includes NPCs in town, heist NPCs, bosses, anyone that's not us talking pretty much. The only thing we really need to hear in game is bosses speak, because their audio cues are linked to visual cues, which are linked to abilities. A great example of this is you hear Cirrus go, die. What do? You start fucking strafing, right? If you can't hear that because you have your dialogue turned all the way down because you don't want to hear someone in heist yelling at you for the 1,000th time, you know, it'd be nice to have those things separated. And finally, having ES and life be separate bars and overheads. I don't personally play with my overhead bar on for my life because I don't need to. But for those who do play with their overhead bar on, currently if you have ES and life, your ES covers your life to the point where you can't see if you're taking chaos damage really. So it'd be nice to have two separate bars to identify when you're actually receiving any sort of chaos damage. But that is this list. It is semi-long. It's about 55-ish things. Let me know what you guys think. Any additions you'd like to make. Again, before suggesting addition, think, is this something that smooths out my gameplay experience, prevents me from getting burnt out? So saying things like, redo Harvest or Heist is bad. I mean, you gotta be more specific to have any sort of credibility in the conversation. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about any of these things or your own suggestions. I know the video's a little long, but you got a lot to go through. And yeah, there's one thing we got as of right now, so hopefully we'll get some of these more to come. So I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the video, and Lighty out.